Hello, this is Mrs. Ringrose, and we are back at it again. This is our final lesson for the unit on solving linear equations. And the last thing we want to work on are literal equations. So literal equations, just in case you didn't know, are equations with two or more unknowns. So we call those, our variables is what is unknown. So basically, if you have an equation that has a bunch of letters, then you can call that a literal equation. And it can be a little scary, but I think the important thing to remember is that you can think about all those letters as numbers, and you're just going to solve it the same way. So looking at our first example, I only have 3 examples, and we're not going to really go back and check them. So this might go really quickly. Our first example is actually the distance formula, when distance equals our rate times time. So if you are riding your bike at, 10 miles per hour, and you're riding for an hour, you can go ahead and multiply the rate times the time and calculate how much distance you've covered. Well, sometimes we don't want the equation set equal to the distance. We want to be able to rearrange our formula and have it maybe equal for r. So you really have to read the directions, and the next to the formula it's going to say solve for a certain letter, and that's when you're going to rearrange the formula with that saying r equals. So sometimes I like to highlight the one I'm trying to solve for, just so I know where I need to go. Alright, so the first step though is to go back and decide what's happening to the variable I'm solving for. This is r times t. So again, I have to ask myself about my inverse operations. What's going to cancel out multiplication? I need to divide both sides by the t in order to get rid of it. So put my division lines, put t underneath in the denominator, and my t's cancel on that side, so I'm just left with the r, which is what I wanted. Alright, now this is where it might be a little tricky again. What do I do with d over t? I don't know any numbers there. There's nothing I can simplify. So I actually just leave it like that. And this is my new formula. My rate equals distance divided by time. I can also rewrite it to put the variable that we're solving for on the left side, but that's optional. So if I have a distance that I traveled and I know how much time it took me, I can find out what my average rate of speed was. And what we did was we simplified. Alright, again I have 2 more examples for you. So the next one is a lovely fraction again. And we're going to solve for a variable. Looks like they want us to solve for b. So again I'm going to go into my formula, my literal equation, just kind of highlight b a little bit so I know that's what I'm trying to get rid of. So the first thing I want to get rid of on this one is this 3. And we learned in the last section that we're going to multiply to get rid of anything that's being divided. So multiply both sides by 3. This one cancels. I'm going to simplify. I have 3a equals a plus b plus c. That 3 canceled, and I bring down everything I have left. Okay, I'm still trying to get this b by itself. So I'm noticing that there's a c and there's an a on it. So the first thing I'm going to get rid of is canceling out this a. And I'm going to cancel this a out by subtracting a from both sides. So these guys now cancel. And I have 3 big A minus a equals b plus c. So I simplified a little bit. Now in order to get rid of that positive c, I'm going to go ahead and subtract again, because subtracting a positive c will cancel that out. And then on this side of my equation, I also have to subtract c. So now these guys cancel out. And I'm left with 3 times big A minus little c equals b. I know this is like really kind of crazy and mind-blowing, but you're just using the same skills that you learned in solving for variables. You're just getting them You're just doing it with letters. All right. I really like this example because it only has two variables, and that's really kind of what we need to be able to do, actually, for future chapters. So again, I'm reading the directions. It says solve for W. I'm going to highlight that. That's what I need to get by itself. So again, my first thing I want to do is get rid of this plus 3. Not 3. Plus 35. So I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. So that looks like 2W plus 35 minus 35. And if I subtract it on that side, I'm going to subtract on this side as well. So these cancel, which is what I want. So now I have P minus 35 equals 2W. And then I want to ask myself, what is it that is happening on the W? It's 2 times W, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to get that W by itself. So what this is going to look like is a long division bar on that side, because that 2 has to go into everything. And again, you might be asking yourself, what is it that I can do with all that? Well, you can write it a couple different ways. The 2 gets divided into P minus the 35 also divided by 2. If you want to take 35, divide that by 2 in the calculator and get a decimal, you can do that. All right, but that's my formula. It's kind of crazy. You could have also just left it as P minus 35 all divided by 2, like as in the step above, whichever one looks more simple for you. All right, so if you've had enough and you want to try the last one by yourself, go for it. I'm just going to do, oh, you're going to try the very last one by yourself, but I have time for one more. So again, I'm going to go ahead and highlight my H because that's what I want to get by itself. I don't like looking at fractions, so the first thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 2. So now I have 2A equals B times H. Next, I want to get rid of that B because I'm trying to get H by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by B. H is now all by itself, and over on the left side, all I can do is rewrite it because there's nothing I can divide into each other. All right, so I hope this helped with the literal equations. The last one, I would not have you solve for c squared because we're not going to be doing too many squares in Algebra 1. But go ahead and solve for that m and let me know how you did. Thank you very much.